So the devotion, the intensity, the desire to understand, to know, understand in the heart, and to know is really to be it. They become one and the same. The realization happens. This is me. I am that, this, whatever this is. And then the second thing that's going to become clear if you carry on, which brings lasting, final, stable, permanent awakening that you cannot go back from and would not want to, is that all of these forms and this formlessness are the same thing, showing up two different ways. You can show up as form or formlessness. Form is perceptible to the senses or the mind. Formlessness is not, but it doesn't mean they're different. And if we want to prove that right now, we can. So there seems to be, if you look at any object in the room, there seems to be the object and then the space around the object. Space around my hand, space between my hand and my head. And it seems that that space stops where my hand starts. If you spend even 2 days questioning that, just 2 days, something profound is going to happen. Does the space really stop? Does the formlessness really stop where the form starts? And if not, are they really two? Just like water can show up as water vapor, invisible in the sky, and then appear as a visible cloud. Water vapor in this room that we're breathing right now, or wherever you are, or if you cool it down enough, it becomes solid ice, or even liquid water you can drink. It's useful. Could you be like that? Could you be showing up as this empty space of being, and then sometimes showing up as form, but not a whole universe of forms, actually just one substance that can show up two ways. It can show up as a substance or a substance less. That is what you are. You can perceive this right now effortlessly. The Buddha nature, your true form, is that you can show up both ways and have been doing for all eternity. If all of these forms disappeared, everything, you'd still be here in your formless aspect. All these forms are beautiful. You can begin to recognize they are expressions of you too. No amount of striving to understand that as a seeker, as a someone, will make it clear. Even if you spend 20 hours a day trying to figure that out, it's not going to work. If you just fall in love with their essential nature, the first way that you show up, which is formlessness, all of that becomes clear. These lower thought forms, I'm doing, I'm thinking, I am suffering, I'm on a journey, all of these thoughts that cloud and fill the mind with doubts, fears, all of that will begin to disappear. And the thoughts that come into the mind will be about your essential nature. What's it like to be formless? And then the realization will pop in there at some point that they're not really two. That something that is formless cannot stop just because it encounters a form. What if those words become synonyms in your mind? How would that change your mind if you realize that all of your thoughts are empty of substance? They are substance-less, appearing as form. Would they still have the same pulling power, the same magnetic attraction? Would you still be able to believe them? Would you still be upset by any form at all if you came to know what it really is? That it's you in disguise, that it's Shiva in a costume, that it's Krishna playing with these divine forms. So all of this, everything that we're striving for, will be given effortlessly when we fall in love with what's already here but overlooked constantly. So just one thing for me made all of the difference. This decision, this fire, this passion that just kept growing. I had to feed that fire. I had to, every time I suffered from some idea about something, I used it to feed this fire of passion. Like, am I going to use this to build a greater fire of devotion that's still raging? It's an inferno now, actually. And it will burn everything that you can suffer from, all of your thoughts. I'm going to use this suffering that I'm feeling right now to be even more determined that I'm going to transcend this all. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I just know that I will. By falling in love with this mystery, giving more attention to, more of my thought process to. Noticing my habit to go back to thinking about forms and people that I think are there, that I think are outside of me. This whole phenomenal universe is you in disguise. The subtle forms, thoughts, emotions, experiences, the tangible gross forms like human bodies, buildings, planets, universe itself. This very ordinary thing that we do as human beings, perceiving form and formlessness. Have you ever really stopped and just taken in how amazing that is, that you can do that? That you're not limited to forms, you can perceive both. And then, as you do that, this word both begins to melt away. This sense of duality still dances, still plays. There's a sense that I'm sitting here talking to you and your body is somewhere else. It's a sense. It's not real. It's been seen through. I don't suffer from it then. So all these words I've just said, you can completely forget if you just take away one thing. Just one thing. That you're overlooking something that is magnificent. Also known as you. That you're valuing something that's going to disappear. And totally, generally ignoring that which is sublimely perfect. It is reliable, it's dependable, it's everywhere, it is you. Next time you look at empty space, even as you look now at the empty space in the room that you're sitting in, can you be humble enough to admit it might just be the most magnificent thing that you've never really fully explored what it could be, what it is, that maybe we've always labeled it as just boring, dull, necessary. I invite you to kind of fall in love with whatever this is. I still don't know what it is. I'm utterly, utterly in love with it, with you. You can call it you can call it me, you can call it empty space, we can call it 1,000 names. But the names are just really subtle thought forms floating around in it, in the nameless. So I urge you to find your passion for this. Each time you suffer and believe a thought and come back out of it again, can you use that? Can you be a little more determined? I'm determined to be free of all thoughts at some point, even the thought that form and formless are two. That they're different things. You don't have to figure out how to realize that. You just need to fall in love more with reality. One is a long, endless struggle that never gets you there. You could think 100 million billion thoughts about formlessness and still not know it. Still not be it consciously. You are it, but be it consciously. You could fall in love with something that you don't understand and have the most beautiful existence that never ends, that just gets better. I hope I've inspired you to kind of take a fresh look at what most human beings ignore, even on the pathway, even in non-duality. Our mind was likely to say, I know what silence is, I know it. I heard it in meditation today, I know it. I'm hearing it right now, I know it. I know what awareness is, I know there's awareness present. I know what consciousness is. I know what formlessness is. Notice our mind's tendency to want to label and box something, stamp it with understood, and then move it to the side. And move on to the next exciting thing. This isn't a thing. It shows up as things, but it's not limited to things. Could it be as simple as that? Consistently bringing attention to that which you cannot understand, but you can become. Noticing the tendency to allow attention to wander back to forms more than formless. You don't even have to, if you take your whole waking state, you don't have to get 95% of attention on formlessness because it's so powerful. If you manage just 5%, 10%, if you use your everyday experience, while you're talking to someone in a conversation, can you hear the silence those words are coming back and forth in? While you're moving, walking along, can you notice the stillness that isn't moving? Your body's moving inside. Can you notice the consciousness in contrast to what you're conscious of? This emotion, this thought. Do you notice that you're aware right now by noticing what you're aware of? And there's 1,000 moments like this each day that tip that balance. And then a habit forms to pay more attention to this. Habit becomes effortless, spontaneous, and automatic. Very shortly after that, freedom makes itself known. Just walks in the front door and sits down and says, this is what you are. And by the way, this is what everything is.